Hello and welcome back to the Garian Tabletop. I am Garian Reaver and I am again in Night of the Full Moon. Something a bit different for you today. I have long loved the lore and storytelling in this game. Each monster, each boss you encounter has a full backstory which, even though it may not explain their actions, is still really interesting that it's in this game. And you can read all of it once you have encountered that enemy. And to do so, you go to the achievement section, boss story, and then pick Full Moon, Diaries, or Mirror. Today, we're looking at Diaries. So there are the 5 bosses, now that I've encountered the Donkey-Eared King, as well as 33 enemies that you can encounter in this game. So what we'll do is we're going to have a look through, come up with any lore that may be presenting itself, and just see what there is. It's worth noting that some of these, such as Tryst Woman and Castle Heroes, have diary in front of them. That's because both of these, the Tryst Woman and the Castle Heroes, both have other stories in the Full Moon version. Maria is a beautiful young maiden who desperately wants to be like the other girls, to be desired by men. She believes she has no love life because she lacks a figure, and decides to seek out chest enhancement secrets. Repeated failures finally lead her to a highly skilled apothecary said to live in a castle in the dark woods. Ignoring all warnings from her family, she leaves her home and ventures into the dark woods without care for her own safety. And then this does lead to her essentially succeeding in her goal and changing how she appears. Castle Heroes. There used to be 3 brothers in the village. Because of laziness and greed I presume, they are doing dirty business with the locals. In a night of the full moon, the businessmen did not show up. The 3 brothers decided to go to the castle to find out why, but they were turned into tea time, candle, and sweep. So tea time is presumably all 3 of them. And trapped in the castle forever. The vampire promised, once you catch anyone from Hope family, I'll let you own endless wealth. Since then, the brothers start becoming hospitable to every guest. That's interesting. Because if this is the time of Night of the Full Moon, I suppose Black Swan is already there, so... Drunk Butler. He was once a failed businessman down on his luck. He came to the tavern every day, depressed and drinking himself to a stupor. One day, his former business associate came to him with a job offer. All he had to do was go to the dark woods and help take care of a newly purchased castle. Who was his business associate? Armoured Knight. The self-proclaimed loyal knight of the Donkey-Eared King Midas, he is stationed here to watch over a nobleman who tried to incite a rebellion. Many years have passed since. The nobleman never goes down the stairs and the knight never goes up. I can't help but feel like there's nobody inside the suit. Who's the nobleman? There isn't really anyone who fits nobleman in this, except maybe the nobleman portrait? When the secret that King Midas has donkey ears was exposed, the king's fear of mockery gradually turned him into a tyrant. Seeing opportunity, a count decided to incite... it's the nobleman portrait. A count decided to incite rebellion in an attempt to replace Midas as king. What he didn't know was that the king had gained the power of dark magic along with his donkey ears, of course. The count's rebellion was easily defeated and he was imprisoned. He later became infected with dark magic and was overrun by monsters. Apprentice cook. He went to culinary school in the big city and returned to his hometown 3 years later. His restaurant opened to negative reviews and eventually closed down. Believing that the lack of a popular recipe was the cause of his failure, he left home and went deep into the dark woods in search of a secret recipe. Said to be left behind by old King Midas's royal chef. He didn't expect to come across an old castle or the royal chef himself confined to the dungeons, looking far from human. Presumably, portly devil. An imprisoned devil who was once the donkey-eared King Midas's cook. He is the kindest among the 3 devil brothers, and it's this kindness that wrought the evil tyrant Midas's displeasure upon him. He was chased out by his 2 brothers, the Red Devil and the Younger Devil. The vampire took the chance and captured him for his castle, hoping to use his magic for himself. When the Fat Devil refused, he was thrown in the dungeon for life. I wonder if he has managed to escape yet. There are no other devils in Diaries, however, there is Ordinary Devil in Diaries, but no Younger Devil. Coal Elf. Burn thyself, bring warmth to others, is the ultimate dream of all coal. They would all eagerly throw themselves into the furnace in order to fulfill this dream, all except for one small group, They desperately wanted to avoid their fate and hid themselves at the bottom of the pile, using the other coal as protection. As they escaped death time and time again, their companions dwindled. They fretted constantly until the day came that they were the only 3 left within the giant pile, and there was no one left in the castle to stoke the furnace. Cursed Cauldron. It originally resided in the laboratory at the top floor of the castle, and was used by the apothecary to brew medicine. Sadly, after years of exposure to the curse of black magic and corrosive medicine, its body became broken and useless, and it was soon tossed out of the lab. Unable to accept its fate, it wandered into the kitchen in search of a new position where it may be of use. Interesting. Castle Phantoms. Mischievous and difficult children, they are both sons of the merchant. Ever since their father became the new owner of the castle, it had been a playground for the 2 brothers. Visitors and prisoners within the dungeon alike became subject to their pranks. Even the original occupant of the castle, the Smiling Cat, couldn't escape their wrath. However, they would soon receive justice on the night of the full moon. They crept into the castle's dungeon and discovered the Fat Devil. They pranked him as they always did. As they took immense delight in their little tricks, the Fat Devil's dark magic suddenly invaded their bodies, transforming them into their current forms. Oh, I guess he wasn't that nice then. Sleepless Sheep. Nobody knows who started it, but people began counting sheep as a way of helping themselves fall asleep. What they don't know is that every time they decide to use this method to resolve their sleeping problems, an unfortunate sheep under the curse of dark magic will suffer. They are forced to hop and jump all through the night, unable to fall asleep. Wow, that's quite grim. Cursed Tome. It hailed from the royal library of the Old Kingdom. Once King Midas's favourite book, it became affected by the black magic that cursed the king with donkey ears. Constant exposure from being held by the king began to transform it. Oh, that was quite basic. Strange Cat. This is the original occupant of the castle, apparently. An old servant from the count's family who raised the count himself. He grew worried when he heard of the count's plan to rebel against King Midas. Oh, so this is the nobleman. But kept up his smile around the count. When the count's rebellion failed, the old servant was cursed by dark magic and transformed into a cat. Despite this, he remains loyal to the count, who had been transformed into a portrait, and continues to help maintain the castle. But didn't they say that this was like the original occupant of the castle, the Smiling Cat? How is he the original occupant if he served the nobleman? Castle Thief. A thief that never missed his mark. At the Tavern of No Return, wonder if that's the same tavern as the Drunk Butler, he learned of a castle within the dark woods where a stash of invaluable treasure from the donkey-eared King Midas's time was kept. Lured by greed, the thief ventured deep into the forest to find the castle and made his way inside, where he suddenly discovered something wasn't quite right. Sealed chest. This is another one who connects to a full moon enemy, the Phantom Captain, so let's find out how he gets out of the chest. The seal on the chest seems to have lost its power. A light tug is all it takes to break it open. While there's no treasure inside, there is a trapped phantom. He looks like the captain who asked my father to fix his deck. He looks like the captain who asked my father to fix his deck, says young carpenter. That's a really interesting note. Baby dragon. A long, long time ago, the count of this castle found a giant egg in a pirate's lair in his crusade against pirates. He brought his egg back to the castle, stored it in his treasure room, and soon forgot about it. The cold stone walls brought no warmth to hatch the egg, but its sturdy shell ensured that its contents were well shielded against the elements over the long years. When black magic spilled into the castle, the egg finally split open a crack. Mad scientist? There was once an apothecary in the Old Kingdom who spent his days deep in research. He claimed to have discovered a new science known as chemistry, but was mocked by his peers and became the laughingstock of the people. The count from the castle came to him one day and said, "I will give you a place to conduct your research and finance all of it on one condition. Use the results of your research on me." So this is prior to his rebellion, the count, and presumably that is the person who used to use the cauldron. Stitches. He was once the neighbour to old King Midas's royal hairstylist. Upon discovering that the hairstylist often sneaked out into the wilderness alone, he decided to quietly follow and overheard the hairstylist whisper to a tree hollow, "The king has donkey ears." The secret began to haunt his dream. Losing sleep and unable to hold back the desire to tell someone, he embellished the rumour and spread it to everyone who would listen. King Midas was enraged and dispatched the captain of the guard to execute the man and discard his body into the wilderness. A mad scientist, that one presumably, came across him and brought him back to his lab. where he repaired his broken body and turned him into a research subject and an assistant. Shackled barbarian, as we've already read The Portly Devil. When the donkey-eyed King Midas' secret was revealed, he turned into a devil tyrant. The fate of the hairstylist who revealed the secret was never known. Some said he was killed by Midas, some said he had ran away to hide in a distant country. I don't know that he revealed the secret. Some said he ran away, many years later, the man's existence was long forgotten until we found, why we, a shackled barbarian in the castle's dungeon. The barbarian stays crouched in the corner of his cell, grinding his teeth and making snip-snip sounds that is strangely reminiscent of a hairstylist's scissors. Also, he's carrying scissors. Gargoyle Warden. The warden of the castle dungeon, he constantly sat and bossed his subordinates around. His attitude grew worse the day he discovered his lantern had gained sentience. Yeah, we're coming to him. Eventually, he was transformed into a gargoyle by dark magic. Now he sits in place without moving, only startling awake when disturbed, at which point he howls and demands, "What? Who's there?" And the lantern jailer. Originally the warden's lantern, it gradually gained sentience under the effects of dark magic, and was finally able to drift through the hallways. Upon discovering this, the warden grew lazy, and decided to order the lantern to patrol the prison cells in his place. Eventually he fully transformed from a normal lantern into a loyal and dependable jailer. Rat King. He was a notorious pirate whose younger sister was taken hostage by the castle's count in order to force his surrender. When he did, the count murdered his sister anyway. The pirate vowed vengeance during his incarceration. When he finally escaped the prison, he fled to the sewers where he drank fetid water and hunted rats to survive, waiting for the day when he could get his revenge. One day he sensed that something was wrong with the castle. The count and its servants had gone missing, and something strange was happening to his body. So with all of these, it seems there is a point when dark magic flooded the castle, and I have to assume this is when the Count's rebellion failed and King Midas took revenge, cursing basically the entire castle. The Flea Spy. Under King Midas' orders, he arrived at the castle to find intel on the Count's plans for rebellion, but the Count's defences were tight and he couldn't find a way in. After many tries, the brilliant spy finally found the perfect entrance through the sewers. When he was battling bugs in the sewers, a rush of evil magic surged in and enveloped him. Alright, well that confirms it. He found out about the rebellion and decided, yeah, I could spy or I could just curse him, and he did that instead. Foreign assassin? The church-controlled Green Country and the distant Heretic Country have been at a war for many years. In an effort to gain the upper hand, the Heretic Country sent out their best assassin in order to infiltrate the Green Country and assassinate the Pope. However, the assassin became lost due to a language barrier. On a night of the full moon, he entered the dark woods, and that is how a stunning and potentially devastating assassination plot faded to nothing. Moonkin Prophet. Before starting his rebellion, the Count of the castle sought out the reclusive prophet to learn about his future. The prophet gave him an undesirable answer, and in his rage, the Count drew his sword and shattered the prophet's crystal ball before stomping off. From then on, the prophet never told another fortune, until the day he meets me and the young carpenter, so that confirms that these are all written from the perspective of Red. Stork. Legend has it that storks decide where a baby is ultimately born. This means that a stork flying with a baby never raises suspicion. A baby trading organisation decided to use this legend to their advantage. They trained storks to do their bidding so they could profit from crime. One day a stork decided not to follow orders anymore. She rescued a baby and returned him to his parents before embarking on a path to redemption. Which is what the stork said, that they stole 8 babies, they used to steal babies and are rescuing 8 as penance, and they're on the 8th. Lizard Warlock. Originally the witch's pet, he developed an extraordinary mind under the lengthy effects of dark magic. Despite his calm appearance, his heart yearns for escape from the witch's control. He is constantly trying to develop his skills in dark magic in order to combat the witch. However, I think the witch never actually imprisoned him. He can leave whenever he wants. That's a sad twist. But the witch isn't actually in this one. The witch appears in ordinary Night of the Full Moon, as well as in the final boss, potentially in the mirror. Sorcery Bush. Like the lizard wizard, she is also the witch's pet. Unlike the others though, she is better behaved. She is aware of the lizard wizard's discontent, and even have tried to advise him to treasure his present life. The lizard wizard, I like how they keep using that, refuses to listen, and so Lady Groot, continue to worry that the lizard wizard will take things too far one day and end up destroying the witch's hut, destroying the peace and taking them along with it. Ooh. Primate. Rock monkeys, otherwise known as mushroom monkeys. They have lived for generations in the mushroom forest. They use throwing rocks as weapons to safeguard their territory. However, it seems the mushrooms they feed on are starting to become rebellious and are making their own moves. Weird. Butterfly guard. When the mushrooms begin to rebel, the rock monkeys discovered that they weren't able to control such a large population. Weren't able to keep such a large population under control, and they decided to hire butterflies to watch the mushroom forest. Their job is to prevent thieves from entering and to suppress all signs of mushroom rebellion. It's the perfect arrangement, if only the monkeys remember to pay the butterflies. What a weird subplot to add. And the last three, drunkard. The guy sprawled drunk in the Tavern of No Return. No one knows how long he's been there or how long he'll remain. Maybe he plans to be here forever. I hope young Carpenter doesn't turn out this way, or I'll... Oh. Reindeer warrior. When the mushrooms begin to rebel, the rock monkeys discovered that they weren't able to keep such a large population. They hired the butterflies to watch the forest. Their job is to prevent thieves. I feel like that is not what's supposed to be here. Whoops, that's a bug. Barrel acrobat, the last one. The former owner of the Tavern of No Return and once an acrobat at a circus. Whenever a young woman patronized his tavern, he would act friendly and try to intoxicate her for nefarious purposes. One day his evil acts were discovered by a patron and had no choice but to pay a large sum of money to keep the man quiet. Just when he thought he could put the problem behind him, a worse fate befell him. What a prick. So those are all the ordinary monsters, and I'm expecting these just to be the end summaries of the bosses. The general of the Devil Tyrant Midas, he's responsible for taking in sacrificial slaves from the priest. Wow. Once he has successfully turned the slave merchants into vampires, he plans to get rid of the priest so that he may take control of the slave trade for himself. This way he'll be able to reap some benefits when presenting the Devil Tyrant with sacrifices. Other than that, there seems to be some tension between him and the Devil Tyrant's adopted daughter, the Devil Princess Black Swan. Okay, that's not what it says at the end. Echidna was once the most beautiful maiden of a small town, making many a man swoon with her looks alone. The local bishop became entranced by her beauty and sought to have her become a nun to trick her to his side. The wise Echidna, weird name, saw through his plans, and the humiliated bishop began to spread slander about her, informing the town that she was a snake of temptation, cursed by dark magic, in the hope that she would give in to his violent tactics. He's not using violent tactics. Does that mean hope that she would give in to her own violent tactics? I don't know where the violent tactics come from. Echidna was scorned and ostracized by the town. With no one to stand up for her, she resolutely fled her humiliation and entered the dark woods on the night of a full moon. The maiden received aid from the Devil Princess Black Swan as she stood facing her pursuers sent by the bishop. She transformed into a powerful, magical, and beautiful snake and slew her enemies. Since then, she has remained by the Devil Princess's side and become her loyal right arm. Yeah, that tracks with what we know of the Queen Viper. I'm going to come to her in a sec. Let's do the Cyclops Giant. The Cyclops Giant is proud of two things: his endless strength and his one and only baby sister, Sunny, no matter how often Sunny teases him. The earnest giant finds his anger fading the moment she starts giggling in delight. It was a day like any other when the giant placed their usual breakfast pudding on the dining table. Words going over lines is poor. The moon rose and set, then rose and set again, and there was no sign of Sunny. The giant desperately searched every inch of every corner, but his younger sister had disappeared into thin air. "Have you seen my younger sister Sunny?" the giant began asking everyone passing by. Only the girl in a red cape stopped for him. She handed him a doll and said, "Sorry, I haven't seen your sister, but I think you can use the comfort from this." Who's his sister? I just had a quick look through. There are no other Cyclopses in this game. How odd. Devil Princess. The Vampire Lord calls her the Devil Princess. The Snake Queen Echidna called her Her Highness Black Swan. She has magic power that is far beyond my reach, easily snatching the young carpenter from me. I fought with all my strength and only managed to tear off the hood of her black cloak. What I saw was a face that struck fear in my heart. Who is she? Well, she's Red's older sister. There was once a small kingdom near the Dark Woods. It had a king named Midas. One day, Midas entered the Dark Woods while hunting. It happened to be the night of a full moon and he became infected by black magic. A pair of donkey ears grew from his head. The hairstylist unwittingly exposed his secret. Since then, the king lived in constant paranoia, believing his people to be mocking him. The mental stress combined with the effects of the black magic's curse eventually turned him into a tyrant. He began to slaughter and harm the people of his kingdom until he was forced off the throne. The king escaped to the Dark Woods where he embraced black magic and became a devil with the body of a man and the head of a donkey. 8 years ago, Grandma took the Little Red Riding Hood's sisters with her to evade the church's attempt to kill them. Somehow in the midst of their escape, Little Red Riding Hood's older sister fell far into the past and was discovered by the donkey-eared king. The king sealed away Black Swan's memories and raised her in order to use the Hope family's ability to control the monsters cursed by black magic, with the ultimate goal of reclaiming his throne. To his surprise, Black Swan's memories slowly returned despite the seal. In an attempt to atone for her past mistakes, she has been silently helping the weaker inhabitants of the Dark Woods who needed her. This continued until 5 years ago on the night of the full moon, when she came across the young carpenter at the castle. Black Swan decided to take the young carpenter deeper into the forest in order to reunite him with his real father. Aware of Black Swan's unusual behaviour, King Midas sets up a trap to keep his adopted daughter from turning against him and finally captures Black Swan, Little Red Riding Hood, and young carpenter together on Grace Lake. Well, that pretty much tells the story. So I guess the lingering questions are, who is the carpenter's real father? What happens after this? So 8 years ago is essentially when Mirror takes place, which then sort of continues forward to be at the time of Diaries, which is 5 years ago. And then Full Moon is sort of the present. So that was a look at the lore of Diaries. If you enjoyed this, let me know. I will probably do Mirror and the Full Moon ones as well. But I do still have a few things I still need to unlock for Full Moon. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts or theories in the comments. And subscribe for more board games, card games like this, miniatures and D&D. And I will catch you later.